Exactly 2 years ago, Polestar introduced their answer to the Tesla Model 3, the all-new Polestar 2. Now, the Polestar 2 was a compact, premium, long-range, all-electric sports sedan. They came standard with dual-motor all-wheel drive, offered up to 233 miles of range, and started at around $60,000. Now, fast forward 2 years later, and Polestar continues to expand the family of the two. And as you can see this week, the company has sent me this new base entry-level model. This is a 2022 Polestar single motor long range, which means they've removed the rear motor and you only have one motor in the front offering 231 horsepower up to 270 miles of range. So they've significantly improved the range over the years. And we have a starting price that starts at well under $50,000. So if you guys are in the market for a premium long-range electric sports sedan and you don't want to buy a Tesla Model 3, how does the all-new Polestar 2 single motor stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we talk about the exterior styling, I thought I'd start this video walk around by showing you guys what's underneath the hood. Now, a lot of you who are looking at EVs tend to expect a frunk, and thankfully the Polestar 2 continues to deliver that, and the frunk size is actually somewhat usable. Now you can see because this model has the motor at the front, you don't get a slightly larger frunk versus the dual motor version. But you can see here, I don't have specs of how big the frunk is, but you can see there's this nice little divider piece. This has the tire repair kit in it, and you can also put the mobile charger up here in the front. But since we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the powertrain specs. Now, unlike the dual motor version that I tested last year, this has one motor at the front. It uses a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. 75 kilowatts is the usable amount, and you get 231 horsepower and 243 pound-feet of torque. That is a pretty significant reduction versus 408 horsepower and like 476 pound-feet of torque that you get in the dual motor version. And keep in mind, the dual motor version is only $3,500 extra. So it's not really terribly expensive, and the range only drops to 249 miles for that model. This one here, because it's lighter by about 300 pounds, gives you around 270 miles of range. We'll go ahead and we'll test it out in the real world, and we'll talk about later on in the video what I actually get. Now, in terms of 0 to 60 performance, Polestar says this should get to 60 in about 6 or 7 seconds. It continues to use a 1-speed reduction gear transmission. Remember, this is a front-wheel drive vehicle, although Polestar says they've made software tweaks to kind of minimize torque steer and wheel hop, which we'll talk about later on during the driving scene. This vehicle is surprisingly still rated to tow a maximum of 2,000 pounds, and as this one sits, it weighs in at around 4,300 pounds. So again, it's about 300 pounds lighter versus the competition, or versus the all-wheel drive version of this car. Now, closing the hood, you can see the hood has dual latches, so you kind of have to slam it a little bit harder. But let's go ahead and talk about the styling. This car's exterior look is kind of recognizable as a Volvo for me. I mean, remember, Polestar was created as the performance electric division of Volvo, and I still think the car looks good. In fact, I am starting to see more and more of these out on the road, which is definitely a great thing. The styling, people tend to look at this car and they ask what it is because they see this badge. The Polestar badge looks pretty cool. I also like it in this magnesium metallic exterior color, which is kind of like that ceramic gray exterior color. It's a very popular option. You can see the headlights, you still have the standard Thor's Hammer full LED headlights, although this particular one here doesn't have the optional pixel LED animation headlights, which is part of the Plus package. Which again would make the headlights look a little bit different, but you can see it still looks nice. You have non-functional vents over here with some black accents. You can see this grille here actually has surprisingly some opening to it, which probably is going to help with a little bit of cooling. There's also some functional openings down here in the lower front grille. You can see there's some piano black, or I'm sorry, just non-painted black plastic at the lower front skirt. But overall, I think this car certainly has aged well. Remember, this continues to be built off of the compact modular architecture that it shares with the Volvo XC40, which is technically an SUV, which is why the Polestar 2 continues to have really interesting proportions. Some people think this is a sedan, but then it also sits up a little bit higher versus most sedans, so it kind of gives you that interesting mix, almost like a Subaru Outback sedan, a modernized version of this car. Now, at 181 inches long, this is a little bit shorter versus the Tesla Model 3 and the new BMW i4, which is their all-electric Grand Coupe sports sedan. Its wheelbase is 107.7. This is about 7 inches longer versus the Volvo XC40 Recharge, on which it's based. You can see these are the base wheels. My tester is literally the base model, and it still comes with a very attractive set of wheels. These are a 19-inch wheel wrapped in 245/45 R19 tires. You can see you have disc brakes all around. You have roughly just under 6 inches of ground clearance with this vehicle, with more of that black plastic cladding. You can see here, Polestar has been always putting this kind of sticker here on the front doors that show that it's a battery electric vehicle. That's probably the first thing I would remove if I own this car. And then looking at the rest of the side profile here, you can see really interesting proportions, kind of boxy, squared off. My tester, because it's missing the option package to give you the panoramic glass roof that doesn't open, it just has the standard roof. You have also very traditional looking door handles. Looking at the vehicle from this angle back here, you can see still a really distinctive looking car, especially when you look at the rear lights. Now coming over here, you can see the charge port door is right here on the rear driver's side. And you can see it has the standard J1772 plug. This vehicle will accept a maximum of 155 kilowatts, which means you can go from 10 to 80% in about 33 minutes. Or you can also charge this vehicle on a level 2 at 11 kilowatts, and it'll probably do that full charge in about 10 hours. That's what Polestar says. So again, nothing super groundbreaking, but it's about average for the segment. It's going to be enough for most people. Now looking at the rear, you can see, I would like to see Polestar do something here to make the rear look a little bit less nondescript. You can see the taillights have a really cool full-length LED with the Polestar logo. You can see it's got LED turn signals, LED reverse light, and brake light. More black plastic cladding on the lower part of the rear skirt. And then if you want to open up the trunk, it looks like a regular sedan, but the beauty about this car is actually it's a hatchback. If you look at the cargo area here, you can see there is a little bit of underfloor storage, which is nice. You get 16 cubic feet of space, which is comparable to most mid-size sedans. If you fold down that back seat, it actually expands it out to around 39 cubic feet of space. So again, pretty good amount of space and usability. And I also like how it kind of gives you the look of a sedan, but the practicality of a hatchback. So now let's move on to the interior of the Polestar 2 single motor. The first thing I do want to show you guys is this very nondescript key fob. You can see this is the base version. So the key is kind of covered in a really nondescript black plastic. There is a very small Polestar logo there. You have your usual lock, unlock, and trunk release buttons, and then a panic button over here. Remember, Polestar and Volvo do have nicer looking keys with materials that are kind of mimicking the interior, but on this base model, it's a little bit more basic. You can see the door handles here. They are illuminated at night, which is nice. This is a traditional looking door handle. You can see when you lock the vehicle, the mirrors also automatically fold in. And then when you unlock it, you just touch the back of that, that'll open the door for you. And then my tester here, you can see, has this kind of texture or textile cloth material with this kind of gray two-tone look with this 3D printed effect here on the upper portion of the upper part of the seat. I think the seats look great. They're also really comfortable and supportive, and the cloth material actually feels good, so that's really nice. Usually I'm not a big fan of cloth. You can see the door panel has this really interesting textured look to this soft touch injection molded plastic, padded over here with some genuine stitching, and then there's an aluminum accented door handle. The 8-speaker high-performance premium sound system offers 250 watts of power. Remember, you need to go to the upper trim or that upper upgrade package to get the Harman Kardon stereo. The window controls, they feel pretty high quality. Tactile. You still have 2-person memory seats, which is nice, along with the power folding mirrors. And then the driver's seat here, you can see it basically is power except for the recline. If you guys go for that optional package, you will get a power recline function, but you can see here the recline is actually controlled by a manual rotary knob as opposed to being full power. But thankfully you still get memory seats, which is nice. Now getting inside, you can see it still has the typical step-in height of a sedan, so you don't feel like you're in a crossover with this vehicle. As I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. And then as I get into the Polestar 2, there is no ignition start button or a key that you have to fumble with. Instead, the car senses that I'm sitting my butt in the seat, and then all I have to do is basically just put it into gear, and that will turn everything on. And then once I leave the vehicle, it'll shut off automatically as soon as my butt leaves the seat, and I open the door, that'll shut everything off. But before we talk about the rest of the interior, I do want to show you guys some of the materials. You can see this upper part of the dash is a soft touch injection molded plastic, but it could be a little bit softer. The material is a very interesting material. Along with this is kind of like a cloth material along with this kind of texturized plastic look with 3D hexagonal effect. It's kind of mimicked over here on the center console. All the Polestar 2s, including this base version, have a 12.3-inch fully digital display here. You can see it's showing the map display. You can also push this button here. It'll show you kind of a more decondensed or a more subtle looking display if you don't want the map up there. You can see the steering wheel has the typical Volvo look, although with the Polestar logo, you have piano black plastic trim, some chrome accent trim. The horn, sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound puny like I've experienced in some competing EVs. The steering wheel itself offers a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment, which offers a good amount of adjustability. And then the centerpiece of this interior is the 11.2-inch Google Android-based operating system. That's their infotainment system. Volvo and Polestar have been doing this for about 2 years. Sadly, this particular model here still does not have Apple CarPlay. Remember, this is an entirely Google-based operating system. So if you have an Android phone, you have a Google account, you can basically sign in, and this is basically just an extension of your phone. However, because it's Google or Android, Apple CarPlay has been delayed for like the last 2 years. Now, thankfully, as of June of 2022, Polestar and Volvo did announce that they are sending an over-the-air update that is going to include CarPlay. It's going to be a wireless CarPlay. It's going to be the newest version of CarPlay. Sadly, my particular tester does not have it still, so I'm not able to show you what it looks like, but just know it is finally here. So if you guys are buying this car or watching this video now, or if you haven't gotten the update, make sure you talk to your Polestar space or dealership, and they should be able to get that for you. But you can see here, there's the Google interface map, which is basically the same thing that you're going to find on your computer, which is nice. It also offers the voice activation, where you can say, "Okay, Google, take me to Starbucks."
There's a Starbucks 3.1 miles away. Navigate to that one?
No. But as you can see, the voice commands work really well. The screen itself is a nice size, although it's not quite as large as what you're going to find from the BMW i4 or the Tesla Model 3. So that just kind of keep that in mind. Pushing the car icon here, you can see this is where you can adjust some of your settings. This car does have a creep function where it functions and creeps forward like a regular gas car. There's the one pedal drive where it offers low, off, and standard. You can adjust the steering wheel. You can turn off the stability control or put it into a sport mode. Assist, this allows you to adjust the driver assistance stuff. My tester is missing that pilot package that'll include pilot assist and adaptive cruise control. You can also go into your charge display here and you can adjust how full you want it to charge. And then there's more here. We can adjust all these other settings for the vehicle. Push this area right here. You can see that takes you to the home screen where it shows you a range calculator. You can connect to your phone over here, your music and whatnot. And this car also has satellite radio, which, remember, the earlier versions of this car did not have satellite radio, so that was kind of frustrating. The system itself is relatively easy to use. You can see there's all your widgets and whatnot. And my tester is missing, sadly, the full 360 camera, but you do have a nice backup camera with rear cross-traffic braking. It has trajectory, it has parking sensors, so that's all very nice. It's all relatively easy to use, and it looks good. It looks very modern, but I will have to wait until I finally see what the CarPlay looks like and the integration looks like before I give my full recommendation of the system. But it is very, very nice and it works well. You can see over here, you have a wireless or you have a frameless rear view mirror, which looks good. LED map lighting over here. You don't have a wireless phone charging pad in this model. You have to go for that upgrade package to get that. You do have 2 USB charging ports over here, which is nice. You can see there's the climate function when you just touch that. A little bit more storage over here. Lots of piano black plastic, and this controls the 1-speed transmission. You basically have that little lit up Polestar logo, and you just either push it forward for reverse, kick it back for drive, push P for park. This right here is not soft, but again, it has a very nice durable finish to it. I'm glad they didn't put piano black, although this is still going to get really dirty. You have some storage over here, 1 cup holder over here, a padded armrest, slightly padded, and then you open this up, you can see another cup holder in there, although it's not really usable because you have to leave this up and you'll have to sacrifice the armrest if you want to use that cup holder. Over here in the glove box, you can see it's a bin style. It's actually damped and it's not lined with felt, but it is a very good size, so that's great. I mentioned earlier the seats are comfortable and supportive. Really like the cloth. I'm typically not a fan of cloth, but Polestar did a great job in that department. So overall, the interior for a base version, I mean, yes, you are missing things like the wireless charging. There's no cooled seats. It just has 3-level heated seats and no heated steering wheel. But it is still a relatively nice place to spend time. So for those of you who don't require all the bells and whistles, this is actually still a generous amount of equipment, especially considering the money. Moving to the rear seat of the Polestar 2 single motor, you can see just like the dual motor variant, you have a relatively decent amount of space. The wheelbase at 107.7 inches is smaller than something like the Tesla Model 3 and the BMW i4, but Polestar says you get around 33.9, so basically 34 inches of total legroom back here. Now for somebody my height at 5'7", I can get back here and get relatively comfortable getting back here and shutting the door. You can see the space back here is okay. There is a large hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger. That's because this car This car's platform is also designed to accommodate an internal combustion engine, but you can see, pleased to see the base version still has rear seat air vents. You have 2 USB-C charging ports over here. No heated back seats, wasn't expecting that. No storage pockets back here. You can see the textile cloth recycled material is also still back here. It also has a nice 3D effect. It actually looks pretty good and it feels good even in the back seat. You can see the materials here. This is an interesting textured soft touch injection molded plastic with an aluminum door handle, padded area over here with high quality window controls. And then you can see here, if you fold this down, there's still an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. There's a decent amount of headroom. In fact, this has a little bit more headroom, I believe, versus the glass roof model. But overall, the back seat is certainly usable, but you may want to look at some competitors, especially crossovers, if you need a little bit more space in the back. So here we are back in the Polestar 2, except this time with the single motor, and this is the base model. The last one that I drove had the performance package, so it had the OLED dampers, or the OLED dampers. It was a very firm vehicle, and it just had a stupid amount of power, like 476 horsepower, something like that. This has about half that power. I mean, 231 horsepower certainly isn't a lot, but this is going to be probably enough power for most people. And the one thing I'm noticing right away between this and the performance pack is it has a much more comfortable ride quality. So if you guys plan to daily drive this and you prefer a softer ride, you're going to want this model. Now the interesting thing about the Polestar 2 is this vehicle is front wheel drive when you get it with a single motor. So Volvo says, or Polestar says, you'll get to 60 in about 7 seconds. Let's go ahead and see what we can get here. Wheels are spinning because it's slightly damp out there, but wow, I got 0 to 60 in exactly 7.01 seconds. And you know what's interesting is the way the power ramps up is very linear. It seems like Polestar has tuned this application to kind of limit the power at very low speeds because they're trying to limit the torque steer. I didn't feel much in terms of torque steer, but what you did feel is like a continuous wheel slippage, which was really interesting to feel. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's sluggish, but if you guys have driven the Polestar 2 with the dual motor, with the extra like twice the power, this is certainly going to feel sluggish, but it's not slow by any means. I mean, this is still way better than those 2-liter, turbo gas 4-cylinders you're going to find in most of the competition. But we'll try it again right here. You can see the road is still slightly damp. Not slipping there, which is nice. Still getting up to 60. 7.14 seconds, so not bad performance. I mean, this is about a 1.5 seconds slower versus a single motor Tesla Model 3, the rear drive variant, or I haven't had a chance to drive the BMW i4 xDrive 40e or eDrive 40, which is the single motor rear drive, but BMW says like 5.5 seconds for that model. So is Polestar a little bit behind in terms of speed? Yes. In terms of the premium electric sedan long-range competition, this is among the slowest in the segment. However, I put my foot down here and you feel that 243 pound-feet of torque. It gives you a nice surge. This is controllable power. It's not overwhelming power like you're gonna feel in some of the competition. I mean, the all-wheel drive variant of this car can definitely feel overwhelming. I got 4.2 seconds, I believe, 0 to 60 in that model, which was just stupid fast. So this is a significantly slower model. It kind of opens the door for Polestar to offer a middle trim, although technically the one that I haven't driven is a dual motor without the performance package, because that has roughly 408 horsepower. So that should be kind of like sub 5 seconds, but there is room for one to be like a 6-second 0 to 60 performance for this car. But again, I can't fault the Polestar 2 in the single motor variant because it is a really comfortable ride. I mean, this kind of feels like a luxury car. The ride quality is good on these smaller 19-inch wheels. It soaks up the bumps. It's also relatively quiet in here, although I've driven some other luxury branded EVs and they definitely are even quieter than this Polestar. Put my foot down here. You can feel it's cutting the power, although there is the traction light blinking a little bit. Not much in terms of torque steer, but again, putting my foot down, it's accelerating very linearly, very smoothly. Top speed on this car is around 101 miles an hour, which is significantly lower than the dual motor version, which I believe is like 130 miles an hour. But Polestar was also one of the first brands to introduce a very Tesla-like one-pedal drive feature. When you have the one-pedal drive on, you can see it provides 0.3 maximum G of deceleration, and that's basically the one-pedal drive that I would like. You can also turn that off. You can turn it down as well. The cloth seats in this particular model here are the base seats, and surprisingly for cloth, I actually like them. They're a recycled cloth material because Polestar likes to do a lot of their vegan and sustainable materials and whatnot. But they're very comfortable and supportive. Put my foot down here again. Let's see. Very good torque. It feels strong It feels strong in this application. It just feels smooth. It feels smooth. It feels safe. It feels secure. And I was honestly expecting more wheel spin and torque steer from a front-wheel drive version of this car. I mean, unlike something like the Chevrolet Bolt EV or a Nissan Leaf, for example. Or something like the Hyundai Kona, which tends to have more wheel spin, the electric version of that car. This feels nice and smooth, nice and linear, nice and premium, which is what you expect from something that has a luxury badge. But, just cruising down the road here, the visibility is okay in the Polestar 2. These A-pillars are thicker than I would like. The view out of the back is okay. My tester is missing the full driver assistance that you get with the Plus package for $3,400. So you just have automatic emergency braking. There is lane keep assist, but there's no adaptive cruise control with their pilot assist. You have to spend another $3,400 to get that. So this is a very light option car. Some competitors, like the Tesla Model 3, gives that to you as standard. And then there's also the non-luxury competitors that also give you a lot of those driver assistance tech as standard, which is technically around the same price, if not cheaper, than this car. So that's something to keep in mind. The Polestar 2, even though it's been on the market for a couple of years, still turns a lot of heads out on the road. And I'm starting to see more and more of them out there. And Polestar's doing a good job of ramping up their total sales because you don't have to go, deal with the dealership environment. You can go to their website and order this car and wait. I think the earliest delivery date I saw was like October or November of this year if you wanted to order one of these cars. Now let's talk about the range, because this model here has the longest range out of all the Polestar 2 models. When this car first came out in 2021, the range was a very paltry 233 miles. Now in 2022, Volvo made software updates, didn't increase the battery size, but they made software updates and they added a heat pump to this model if you guys go for the pilot package, at least, for like an extra $4,200. And that improved the range to 249 miles on the all-wheel drive model, which I got right around there in my week's worth of testing last year. And this one here is rated at 270 miles. Now, in my week's worth of testing with this car, I actually was able to beat the 270, and I got around 285 to 290 miles of total range, which is pretty damn good, actually. And you can credit the fact that this is 200 pounds or 300 pounds lighter. When you drive it as efficiently as you can, it's a very aerodynamic car. And I'm just genuinely impressed. For a base model, I was expecting to hate this car a lot more, but you can't really fault what Polestar is offering here. I mean, at a starting price of under $50,000 before the federal tax credit, it is certainly an enticing proposition, and it still has better build quality than most of the Teslas. It's still less expensive than the BMW i4, which is, again, the European equivalent to this car, although the Beamer is going to probably be more fun to drive. But I think with the right options, if you guys, I would personally suggest going for the dual motor for an extra $3,500. But overall, if you guys don't need all-wheel drive or the extra power, the single motor variant of this car is a surprisingly nice electric vehicle that should have plenty of power for most drivers. So after spending the last couple of days driving the single motor variant of the 2022 Polestar 2, I have to say, when I first drove this car last year, I was relatively impressed with it, but I also thought it was a little bit expensive and it also rode a little too rough. So after spending some time in the least expensive version of the Polestar 2, which remember I drove the most expensive, most powerful version, now I'm driving the least expensive model. I was expecting to hate this car with a passion and basically tell you need to go for the all-wheel drive version and get all the bells and whistles. Surprisingly, I'm here to say that this is actually a really great proposition for those of you who want a premium long-range all-electric sedan that also reminds you that it is built off of a luxury platform. The ride quality in this model here with the standard suspension and the 19-inch wheels is just really, really nice. The quietness of the interior is pretty quiet, although I will say that some competitors, other luxury competitors, are a little bit quieter in terms of road noise, in terms of wind noise. The tech in this car still looks impressive. I do like the 11.2-inch Android-based Google infotainment system, which, by the way, Apple CarPlay has been confirmed and it is being wirelessly updated as of June of 2022. This model here sadly didn't have it, but I am looking forward to getting one to retest that actually does have the CarPlay functionality. The standard stereo system in here works well. The seats are also comfortable, even though this is the base cloth seats. The back seat is relatively usable along with the trunk capacity, and 0 to 60 in 7 seconds. While it is a little bit too slow for me, I'd probably spend the extra $3,500 and go for the all-wheel drive version, which will lower it to about 4.5 seconds. It should be plenty of performance for most people, and in the real world, getting around 280-ish miles of range is also a very impressive number, and it matches what I got in my Model 3 Performance from 3 or 4 years ago. Now, I suspect Tesla has also already improved the range on that. The other main competitor for this vehicle would be the BMW i4 eDrive 40, which I haven't had a chance to drive that model. I drove the 50i, the all-wheel drive version of that car, which competes with the all-wheel drive version of this vehicle, and was super impressed with the BMW. But keep in mind that the Polestar is significantly less expensive than the BMW competition, and about the same price as the current Tesla Model 3 single motor rear-wheel drive variant. This car here starts at around $48,600 before the $7,500 federal tax credit. That's right, this car still qualifies for the $7,500 federal tax credit. My tester here doesn't really have any options. It just has the destination charge and the metallic option for the paint. This car here comes in at $49,400, including destination, which is under $50,000, about the same price as a Tesla Model 3 long range or standard range rear-wheel drive version. Remember, once you factor in the tax credit, this car will be less expensive versus the Tesla. If you guys want all-wheel drive, it'll cost you about $3,500. If you want the driver assistance package, it'll also cost you around $3,200. Personally, for me, I'd probably go for all-wheel drive and go for the Plus package and the package that also gives you the panoramic sunroof. You're looking at around $60,000 there, but remember, that's before the tax credit, and it still represents a really good deal. And it's probably why Volvo was able to sell around 4,500 of these in all of 2021. It's actually been ramping up in terms of sales because they do have a direct-to-sale model where you can go and order the car on their website for a $500 deposit. And right now, as of July of 2022, the current delivery time frame is around November. So that's not too long of a wait, and you won't have to deal with any of those markups that you typically find at a usual consumer dealership. So with all that said, I am relatively impressed with the single motor version of the Polestar 2. I think it's worth a serious look if you guys are looking for a more affordable, long-range, premium electric sedan, and you don't need all-wheel drive, you don't need all of the fancy bells and whistles, because for under $50,000, this should be enough car for most people if you're looking to get into a slightly nicer all-electric sedan with more range. Well, with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.